Hey, Prasanna, we're back with another edition of LinkedIn Live and talking about Gen AI.
Thiyagarajan.
Hey, what's up? All right, so today's topic is how does SaaS change the evolution of SaaS and Gen AI? Your opening thoughts.
I think SaaS has a lot of challenges today, uh, including a lot of competition, GTM, high CAC, payback, and adoption issues. So many challenges that SaaS has today, right? And I think too many folks building in the same segments and many segments where nobody's building. I think SaaS has a lot of challenges. It's not that it's all a bed of roses, right? So to me, I think Gen AI is a challenge. Gen AI brings up a threat to SaaS, but I think Gen AI is also a huge opportunity for SaaS.
Yeah. So one of the things that happens not just with Gen AI and with practically any technology shift is that when big shift happens, for a brief period of time, people go bonkers. They're like, I mean, man, something happened. What do we do? What do we do? Right. So if you actually talk to a lot of founders, they tell you that not just like SaaS founders, like anybody who's like starting up, they're like, look, I mean, Gen AI is bringing a lot of differences. Am I going to be around or not? So it's a combination of both optimism and fear, right? So that is. Like you said, like there is a lot of opportunity that is there, but then am I going to get disrupted, displaced, and what is going to be my role? And this happens with every technology shift, and because it looks like Gen AI might work, people are believing that more, and they're like fretting a lot more because of that, right? From a evolution perspective, there will be evolution, but there may not also be evolution. One of the things that we always talk about from a Upekkha perspective is, right, so SaaS is a business where you have to understand how is your ICP, your ideal customer persona, making a purchase decision. How is he making a buying decision? And whatever you are trying to sell has to
Yep.
be mapped to that. Whether it is Gen AI, whether it was Web3, whether it is going to be like Gen plus AI that will come later, as long as SaaS founders we have a deeper understanding of how like a customer is making a buy decision, we will actually build great businesses. That part
Yep.
is not going to change. The customers' needs are not going to change, and customers' preference to actually talk to those vendors, those tool makers, those SaaS
Yep.
founders who can actually solve their problem, that is not going to change. But how do you actually make that solution? Are you going to make that solution through existing tools that you already had? How is that going to affect your margin structure of how you are going to deliver that? In that, India is still going to play a big role in helping you with that margin structure. That is going to change, right?
Yep.
So what may change is the composition of the SaaS companies that are there. The competitive landscape is going to change, but
Right.
someone as a founder who has like a deeper understanding of how my customer makes a purchase and how it has changed because of these new tools and new changes that have come up, as long as they have their ear to the ground and they are changing according to what the customers behaviors are changing to, they don't have anything to worry about, right? And that those are the folks who will actually make sure that they are leveraging it as an opportunity. If somebody is going to just do feature factory and they said, hey, earlier I built this feature, I mean this product which was like a US competitor, it had like 15 features, I'm going to do 16 feature and I'm going to make it available 50% cheaper.
Yep.
Those people have all the reasons to worry about. That part of the SaaS is going to get completely evolved. So important thing is to think through like deeply from customer perspective, question assumptions, not ape playbooks like you how spoke about in the last week's session. Think from like the very basic ground up. Right? Those are going to be very important. That is what will help people figure out evolution. So Prasanna, I know like last week we were at SaaS Bhumi, and
Yeah.
you had a session on Wadley map, and like some of the things that we just now discussed is what you are helping through from how to think about. Do you want to talk a little bit about that as to how, what kind of assumptions you have to question, what kind of things you have to change, what kind of choices you have to pay attention to understand this evolution?
Yeah. I think the session last week that I did, coincidentally turned into a bit of AI as well, because Shruti who kindly agreed to be the guinea pig and opened up about their how they saw things evolve, how things changed, and all that stuff. Right? They're an AI first company before before 4 years ago, right? And so for them, I think one of the beautiful parts, and it came out from an evolution standpoint. I wasn't 100% planning it. Is that when they and Shruti made this call, which is that when she was looking at transcription, for them that is critical. When she was looking at transcription, what she felt was, look, Alexa is doing transcription, and so for AWS, it's critical that Alexa gets transcription better and better over time. And how would we compete with Alexa to do transcription better over time? That's like crazy, right? Versus stuff that is closer to the customer, Alexa or AWS doesn't care so much about, because it's a much smaller market, not so important for them. If they put in more engineering effort towards that, then it's going to create more differentiation in the product towards customers. So they kind of took that strategic call, which is what you're talking about, which is that they said, look, we won't work on the transcription. We will live with transcription as an APIs where it is today, expecting that transcription will improve over time, and
It's
we
a
will,
melting ice problem, right? It's going to melt over a period of time.
right. And therefore, we will do minimal work on transcription. We'll do the work on getting transcription to be usable for us, but they're not going to work on transcription. And this was a call that they took, which turned out to be right, because very quickly, when the underlying transcription stuff became better and better and better, their work in the upper layers that are closer to the customer compounded and paid off, right? Relative to if they had worked on transcription, all their work would have gone down the drain with the Whisper today or whoever else tomorrow. Right? So that evolution, the next level above transcription for them was NLP. And I was talking to Shekhar Kirani of Axel, and he was talking about how, you know, what 30 years of NLP research, right? And it's all been done very logically, trying to break it into components, trying to understand what's happening, trying to make it better incrementally, all of that stuff. And 40 years of that NLP work is like kind of sort of down the drain, because LLMs have outperformed that 40 years of computational NLP, if I can call it that, or logical NLP, uh, in just a few short years. They've like completely beat every NLP algorithm on every benchmark that exists. Like they had to create new benchmarks for LLMs because the old
Yeah.
benchmarks like were not working anymore, right? So the second part, which was NLP, again, Shruti could have spent a lot of engineering effort on the NLP bit, but they chose not to, and that turned out good as well, because when the LLM stuff came out, and not even the 3.5 or whatever, right? But even before that, the NLP from OpenAI was better than state of the art NLP algorithms that you could run on your own. So I think these are two cases where, and in AI, especially these kind of areas, where I think, Rajan, the phrase you said, which is AI under the API, is a much better idea than trying to do AI within your company. And then we had another example where there's a CEO, I won't name him, who said that they spent literally like $3 million with 10 a 20 member team in 2016, 17, trying to do a lot of AI stuff, and they had to just throw it all away because of COVID. But actually, in reality, like all of that stuff is like now available off the shelf. And this time, when they're doing AI, they're very clear. They're like, use APIs, right? Don't write any AI code. You can't find an API for it. Like, wait, but don't start like hiring PhDs and doing stuff. So I think this is like key, and folks who understand this and build more value towards the customers rather than stuff that should be under the API will benefit. And it's similar to somebody. If somebody tells me, "Hey, I'm gonna build up a custom Kubernetes cluster today for running my SaaS app," I'd be like, "Are you crazy? Like, is Kubernetes what you're specializing in, or like whatever value you want to build for your customer is what you're specializing in?" People still do that, though, unfortunately. Right? You should just be using whatever your cloud provider provides for that. Obviously, you're not building an electricity plant or a data center and stuff like that to build a SaaS app. The same way for if you're building AI into your product, you should not be building. If you're like,
The
even
primitives.
if you're fine tuning LLMs, I'm not sure this is the right thing to do at this point in time, especially if
Yeah.
you're like very early product market fit. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Yeah, so this is fitting into the adage of saying, move where the puck is moving, right? So but
Yeah,
then what you are saying is a little more than that. You're saying that it is not about just where the technology trends are moving. You're saying that move more to where the customer behaviors are going to move, which is what I said earlier as well. Moving more towards where the customer behaviors are moving and having a deeper sense of that is what is going to give you like a strong anchor, and you'll not be worried about any
yeah.
of the big technology change that happens, disruption that happens, right? So that makes sense. So one question that comes up with this,
I just put one thing there, right, which is tech changes fast, customer behavior doesn't change as fast.
that's right.
We often overestimate the rate of change of customer behavior, and a lot of founders, you included, have built products too early,
Yeah,
anticipating customer behavior,
will
and
change.
the mistake is that you're too early, right? And you did that with what is it called,
Motvik.
Periscope,
Yeah,
uh,
Motvik.
Motvik,
Periscope
right, where you were
comedy.
doing streaming video and stuff like that. But in your at that point in time, infinite wisdom, you selected Nokia as a platform because obviously that was what was going to win, and you didn't sell it to Mark Benioff or Twitter, right?
It was like
Right.
10 or 15 years ahead of its time, right? So and they say that being ahead of its time and being wrong is not different, right?
Same.
So timing plays a very important role on this part about evolution, right? As things are changing, one question that I'm hearing recent a recent past is that if I'm already building a SaaS application, I have a decent understanding of what the customer behaviors are. Now, underneath AI, Gen AI, not the primitives, but the Lego building blocks are coming and saying, hey, you can do things differently. Maybe it'll affect your margin structure, etc. Now, should I drop everything that I'm doing? Or when should I actually start taking Gen AI seriously when I already know that like I have like deeper understanding of my customers and
Yeah.
the SaaS is working?
Yeah. So a year ago, I felt that Gen AI would make a large impact, but I was not clear about how and when and where it would make that impact. And especially in a B2B SaaS, because customers are slow. Today, last 3 months, what I've been hearing is that lots of folks have been throwing innovation budgets at this problem, but serious budgets in terms of company budgets have not yet been triggered in many cases. A lot of these innovation budgets will not be renewed. That's the nature of the innovation budget. It's like a one-time thing. A lot of these projects are not necessarily successful, and I think one of the reasons is that people are selling this sassy thing, like this big hairy ball of sassy thing, and then inside somewhere they've removed one part and put in an AI part, but it's still this big hairy sassy thing, right?
Yeah,
Now I'm gonna go sell this to you, and like you are a buyer and you're looking at it, and like sure it has some like small egg of sass inside it, but it's still this big hairy sassy thing, right? So that small egg of AI inside it doesn't ameliorate the big hairy sassy thing, right? I think there has to be like big shift in terms of a lot of things have to shift, not just having a AI inside kind of a thing, but a lot of things have to shift for it to actually deliver dramatically more value to the customer. And this is where your customer behavior has to change for them to adopt this new thing. And I think in Goal and Goal 2 and Goal 3, Eliyahu Goldratt, one of my favorite authors, uh, love his books. It's right here. Right? If you've not read it before, right, this is a book to read
necessary but
about,
not sufficient.
yeah, necessary but not sufficient, about exactly about, if you're selling a new thing, then if your customer behavior doesn't change, then, your new thing is not going to work. Your new thing will work only if customer behavior changes. But customers do not want to change behavior. They want to continue doing stuff the way they do, but their life has to be better, right? So that is not possible. They have to be ready to change. So in your industry, in what you're doing, what are the wedges where customers are ready to change behavior, and in those changes of behavior, how easy is it to sell them something that you can have an 80% success rate at selling,
Hmm.
versus in SaaS today's success rate in outbound sales is probably like 0.1% or 0.2%. I don't know. Like response rate is 1%, 2%, right? So, I'm assuming that conversion will be another like 5% of that. So, 0.1% might be high, right?
Yeah.
But can you create a wedge with AI that will convert 80% of the time rather than 0.1% of the time? Then your customer has a better deal because they also not spending so much time killing themselves trying to buy your software or not buy your software, change management, or this, or that, or the other. And then can you deliver that in a way where it actually is transformative for them and not just something that I adopted one more tool and my life is the same yesterday, my life is the same tomorrow. Like, what the hell? Why I'm now paying for one more tool, but my life yesterday and my life tomorrow are the same. That's not a good place to be. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I think.
customer buying behavior changes is a good compass to have, and that can actually make sure that you're not doing any wasteful efforts. One other
Yeah,
thing that I feel useful to consider is if you're operating in a space where there are large incumbents in adjacency, or like directly in whatever you are doing, or even if you have like competitors that are well funded, they are going to make changes. They're at least going to muddle the pond, right? They're going to go to your customers and then like use the FOMO and then tell them that they'll get disrupted and if you didn't use this Gen AI tool or not. In that case, you have to actually do keep a watch out of what is happening, right? And definitely what happens with Gen AI is that there are some experiences that we're seeing this again and again is that you thought the SaaS tool was like very basic, but then when you see it combined with an intelligence that is powered, then it can open up vistas that you had not thought of before. So the experiences is what then helps you understand that these are things that were possible. So those type of things, if your competitors and our incumbents are investing time in, that is something that you should also investigate, right? Having customer behavior understanding as an important anchor is important, but it's at the same time understand like what are these changes that are coming and pay attention. If your competitors are also not making too much noise about it, then you can afford to actually delay this a little bit. But if your competitors, especially funded ones, are able to come up with even like breathtaking demos, if it doesn't translate into like full rollout,
yeah,
that'll take away mind share of your customer from you
yes,
to them. And that
absolutely.
mind share you want to make sure that you're not letting off go, right? So like they say that you first win mind share, then you win the wallet. So for that reason you have to watch out what is happening outside, and that is where the whole model map session that you did also is critical to say, hey, what else is changing in the ecosystem? What
Correct.
are the terrain changes that are happening? And one of
True.
the things that we are hearing again and again is that in the field of Gen AI, every 6 months, it is almost as if there is 10x productivity. When you
Yep.
have 10x productivity, then some of the assumption that you made on saying, hey, this type of intelligence is what can come 6 months ago is
Correct.
completely getting removed now. I saw one
Yes.
amazing tool today called Devin. Hopefully, I'm getting the name right. It is the first software engineer where the demo was like mind blowing. I saw another great demo today called Matrix, where most people had talked about chat as an interface, but now you have like grids, and in this grids, they're able to pull out and pull in like different parallel tasks, and then they are able to sync with each other. So the innovation that is happening on the tech side, it is actually surprising us every 6 months. Like nobody expected Sora to be there, and then suddenly Sora
Yeah.
came in, and then people are like, "Wow, this is like mind blowing. Will the Hollywood industry be there around or not?" So I would definitely say that keep track of what is happening in the technology vista. Definitely keep track of what incumbents and competitors in your space are doing, and make sure that you don't let them take away mind share from your existing customers. So invest a little bit on like maybe like a small team which is figuring out what is happening in the tech side of things, and see how you can map it to the customer behavior changes that you are keeping a close eye on.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that for me was very interesting, which again Shruti brought up, is amazing, is that, the practices you use to use a technology also change.
Yeah.
And as an example, prompt engineering, which is like considered something that people do, and then it's like very considered looked down upon, whatever. It's changing so much. And within that, as an example, like originally, all I saw was about how do I do, more complex prompts, more creative prompts, more, specific prompts, which will get the kind of output that I want from these LLM. Then I was talking to one of the companies that's like really super hot, and they're like growing revenue like crazy, and they have a focus on quality of output. So they say that, look, whatever I want quality to be delivered to my customer. And what they've done, the way they've achieved it, is they've broken up, for lack of a better term, one input from the customer, which has to result in an output. And they've broken that up into 50 different prompts, right? And so one call from the customer becomes 50 different prompts, up to 50 different prompts, where some of these are iterative, where they basically say, hey, give me a solution, and say, hey, can you make it better? Can you make it better? Can you make it different? Can you make it crisper? Can you make it whatever? Something iterative. And another set, they say, hey, give me one option, give me another option, give me another option. And then they use LLM itself to say which one of these is crisper, which one of these funnier, which one of these is whatever, right? And then break that down and say, hey, break this down into bullet points. Take the first bullet point. Now, you know, do X with this first bullet point. Do Y with this second bullet point. Do Z with this third bullet point. And so they like, you know, or a lot of people would have taken this prompt and then like made this into a big prompt and then done the whole thing. Instead, what these guys are doing is they're taking this prompt and then they're doing so many different things with it, and then they're using some logic and some prompts to reassemble this into a high quality outcome. And their belief is that by doing this, exploding the prompt and then combining the prompt again, they're actually able to ensure quality of output, because that's their like driver. But they break up that quality into its component pieces and then reassemble that into a way that actually works, right? So what I want folks to take away is that practice of prompt engineering itself has changed so much in the last 1 year. It's unimaginable to think this way over the last 1 year. Similar to how system admins transformed into DevOps.
DevOps.
None of the system admins became DevOps people. Most of them didn't. Right? But DevOps was considered to be like not very powerful compared to sysadmin 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But over time, system admin stayed in the same place because it's still working with the same VMs, or not VMs, it's still working with the same hardware. The hardware has become marginally better, but not that much better. But the capabilities on the VM side have increased so much that the process of DevOps improved far more dramatically. And DevOps is much more richer. You can do a lot more with DevOps now than you can with system admin.
Yeah.
The use cases are broader, the architectures are broader, and so on. So like that, not just the fact that hey, the AI API is getting better and better over time, but it's also that 1 year ago the way that people thought about how to do prompts was very different, and 1 year from now the way that people will do prompts will be unbelievably, you know, uh, you can't even compare it with how prompts were being written 1 year ago. So it's not just the underlying thing that is getting better, but the way you use it is also getting better. And this also applies to customer behavior. Customer behavior is a certain way because it's used to a certain thing. And now when that thing evolves, then customer behavior can be again componentized into customer behavior for doing this is a mix of X, Y, Z, A, B. X may not change, so it's still stuck there, but A, B, C, D, now I can like put that as a new thing, call it a new thing, and then evolve it and then help them do that A, B, C, D faster, better, cheaper, more effectively, with higher quality, all of that stuff. But this X factor that's there within that customer behavior, I don't know what to do with it, so customers will have to pull that out and do that separately. Right? This is something
Yeah.
that Shruti explained brilliantly in the context of her product. But I want founders to understand that it's not just, hey, NVIDIA launching better chips, better models of AI being done, but people are doing things creatively with these APIs now that nobody thought about last year. And then now when you apply that creativity at the next level, if you as a founder start exploring this customer behavior and seeing which parts of those can be done, which parts of those cannot be done, and that list keeps changing. Therefore, customer behavior also, you drive the evolution as a founder, right? I think you have to start thinking in a lot of these layers to be able to improve how SaaS products deliver value to customers.
Yeah. So just on that, right? So there is a lot of change that is happening. There is a lot of evolution that is happening. We are saying, you and I both are saying that look, some parts are not going to change. We talked about there is a lot of optimism, there is fear, and we're also doing this LinkedIn live, frankly, because a lot of founders came and said, "Hey, continue to do this on this topic of Gen AI." There is a lot of fog, right? People are not clear. But then when we are trying to clarify, we're also exploring the potential and possibility of this. So one of the things that I said to a couple of founders, the best thing that we can do for Gen AI to our customers is not to hype it up, right? While this is actually showing promise, but at the same time, you don't want to have marketers go overboard and then say things that it's not possible to do, or it'll take another 3 or 4 years to deliver, and hype it up and then actually make it worse for everybody, right? And pat to that, the question that came to me was, "Hey, you are doing this LinkedIn lives, you are also hyping it up, right? By saying, hey, Gen AI is this and Gen AI is that." So, what would you say to that, Prasanna?
I don't think it's hype anymore, right? Honestly, I don't think it's hype anymore. Uh, and I use a therapy modality called IFS, internal family systems. And the last few weeks, I've been using a AI therapist, which is using this particular modality. It's a very restricted thing. It's a beta access product. Hardly like 50 people are using it. But I can tell you, I've taken therapy before, and this thing, and I've used apps, other therapy apps that came in 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. To me, the interesting thing was this particular modality and this AI therapist are going very, very well together, right? Versus other therapy modalities that I've seen or used before, even with LLMs, those modalities are a little open-ended. And when those modalities are a little open-ended, then the AI struggles a little bit more to stay on track or to get somewhere or to get deeper. But this particular modality and LLMs, and I don't think they're doing like a lot of magic beyond what is happening in the LLMs. But I can tell you that that combination feels like magic, right? It is, I would say, better than many therapists that I've worked with. Not that they're bad, but simply because this one is just available 24/7.
Hmm.
And this particular modality, there are hardly like 500 or 1,000 trained folks in the world. So it's available to me in a way that nothing else is available, right? And so that combination of things, and it's able to hold context unbelievably well, and it's able to rephrase stuff that I'm saying back to it, back to me, in a in a way where some of the times I'm like, wow, I didn't like that. I said it in that frame. I didn't realize I was saying it in that frame, but like this thing is like repeating it back to me in a frame that like I was shocked, right? I was like, wow, yeah, that makes sense, right? Which I have not experienced with the real therapists, right? Who try very hard. So to me, like this experience and many, many, many other such experiences are telling me that stuff is real. This is not hype. Somebody who is not adopting this tech to deliver value to customers relatively is going to die compared to somebody else who's adopting this. This is not even like cloud, in my opinion, because a lot of use cases, cloud versus on-premise versus your own data center or whatever, it really doesn't actually make much of a difference. Most use cases, right? Only one use case which is like a massively spiky usage kind of a use case where cloud will outperform, right? But this one is not like that. This one is like saying, hey, would you like to work with someone smarter? Would you like to work with somebody smart who's available 24/7? Would you like to work with someone who has understood and uh, is able to deploy a particular framework or a structure or a modality or a process or whatever really, really well, right? And be specific about it, be precise about it, bring a shit ton of data to the table, bring a shit ton of best practices to the table. Like, I can see how it could replace me. And, on the one hand, I'm scared about that. On the other hand, I'm like, cool, then I can, maybe do something better. My time. But,
Yeah.
but it's real. It is
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, I agree with that, which is that, it's not a hype, and where people get tripped up is when we say, hey, like, it's an intuition, it's a feeling, and it is like, things that we are seeing, and in non-linear, we want to actually look at some of the leading metrics and make choices on that. That's where it becomes tricky. I also feel that for a lot of folks, they are having this feeling of saying, oh, is it a hype or not? And they're not moved forward with the thinking that, yeah, this is the real. This is because they are perhaps operating with old mental models. One of the founders that I spoke to last week, and he said it nicely. He said, a lot of things that is working in SaaS, in Gen AI is the anti-SaaS playbook. It is like, you need to think about this from a very, like, okay, completely just like, hey, what is the pain point and what is the feature set and how do I compare, and can I just, do like better pricing and things like that. So you have to come out of that. You have to actually think through things from the very basics, like first principles perhaps, and then say, does it make sense, does it make sense, and what are the things that are changing, what are assumptions that are to be questioned again. So therefore, anybody who's just copied something, or like, are using a mental model which involves like copying something that has already worked before, those are the folks who find it hard to make sense of the changes that are happening, right? So that's where you need to look at it through fresh mental models, like,
Yeah.
through basic question. I know we are out of time, Prasanna. Any
Yeah.
closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's important to deliver value to customers, and that part is also changing. It's also, you have to keep up with it. But I think all of us now are like, Stone Age cavemen who've just been given fire, and hopefully we won't set the world aflame, and we'll tame that fire and start
Learn how to cook
cooking up some
and
nice Michelin star food for everybody.
awesome. All right, let's sign off now, and we'll see you all in another LinkedIn Live.
Bye.
Bye.